Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hisham Tilawi. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we will be visiting Boston again. But before we visit Boston, we're going to talk about Boston to see if we actually understand what took place. Why? What was the motivation? Is what we are seeing on TV and the news channels, is it real? Is the information they give us true? Or is it not? Is there another story behind it? Are there other people involved in this? We're going to not really attempt to answer any of these questions because I don't have any answers, and you probably don't. The only thing you know is a couple of Muslim kids. Well, one of them is 26 years old, okay? He's not a kid. And supposedly, he became more religious. That's the story out there. Well, there are other stories out there, but the media is mainly concentrating on the 26 years old became more religious, and that was the motivation. Well, we're going to explore that. We're going to explore that and tell you if you become more religious, I don't care what your religion is, you should know more about that religion when you become more religious. That means you are studying it more. That means you are believing in it more. That means you know more about that religion if you become more religious to the point of becoming a radical because you learned the religion better. Well, we're going to explore that. But before we do that, there was something interesting that I ran into on the internet yesterday. You know, normally I used to, like when the internet first came out and, 10 years ago, I started my television program and I started my activism before 9/11. And so I was doing searches on my name, just to see who's picking my stories up, what websites, what are people talking about. And it was kind of, I guess interesting when you do a Google of your name and you see that, you got 150 different entries on there. And then you start, looking to see, and, you kind of have fun looking at your name and seeing who's picking your stories up and who's talking about you. So I haven't really done this in, 10 years. But I did do it last night, and I was it was funny of what I found. But this is what I found. I want you to pay attention to this because I want to show you that those people who control the media, they also control the internet, and this is an example of how they control the internet. Now, if somebody does not know me and they go on the internet, if you see there's my picture there on the right-hand side, and below it, you see it says people also searched for, like people who searched for me also searched for these people. Now, you don't know these people below, but I do. I don't know them personally. I know some of them personally, two of them, but all these people there's one thing in between them. They are anti-Zionist. Some of them are anti-Jewish. Some of them I don't even agree with their ideas. But yet, with all the hundreds of shows that I have done, somebody, and this is supposed to be at random, These pictures are supposed to be at random. I guarantee you there was probably one or two people who checked my name and maybe checked one of these guys' names, because there's absolutely no relationship between me and these people. Well, the first one on the left is Michael Piper. He is a friend of mine, and he works for the American Free Press. Next to him, and he is an anti-Zionism, basically, he is anti-Israel. Then you have Willis Carto. And then you have Mark Weber. He is a revisionist historian who studied the Holocaust, and he's an anti-Zionist too. Then you have Professor Kevin McDonald, who wrote many books about Jews and Jewish. Then you have, on the right-hand side, Frederick Tobin, who's a friend of mine from Australia, and he's been on the program a couple of times in the last 10 years. Now, the others, they've been on the program one time 10 years ago. And, Michael Piper, yes, he's been on the program. But for them, for the search engine, to at random pick those up, there is no way on earth that I would believe that after 10 years of interviewing these people one time, that they're all going to be surfacing right here. So if you want to know about Hisham Tillawi, know about these, and then you are going to form an opinion. Well, if you look to the left of that, you will see, go ahead. Okay, if you look to the left, you will see this website always shows up to be the first one or the second one whenever you search my name, the Anti-Defamation League. Now, I know there are many, many websites. So these people, the Anti-Defamation League, actually pays, or they probably don't pay, they probably just get it for free, to put their stuff first when you put certain names. So when you go and you search for Hisham Tillawi, the Anti-Defamation League is going to be the first one there to tell you about how bad Hisham Tillawi is. Okay? So that's how they control the internet. That's how they brainwash you, because as a matter of fact, many people that I wanted to interview, the cowards ones, when they look, they'll say, oh, well, look, the Anti-Defamation League saying this and this about you. I don't know if I want to come on your show. That's how they control people. That's how they brainwash people. That's how they program people to think one way. Because they don't just control the media. They also control the internet. They control the search engines. Anyway, let's get back to Boston. Well, before we go actually to Boston, I want to show you a picture of a Palestinian American, the first Palestinian American to actually be drafted into one of the professional football teams, the New York Jets. So Audai, that's his name. He is he's the first one, I think abou or something like that. He's the first one to actually, the first Palestinian American to be drafted into a professional football team, an American professional football team. So congratulations to Audai and his family. Except, the New York Jets, I'm not really too crazy about that team, but hey, it's something better than nothing. Okay, here we go. The Boston bombing. There are a lot of information out there of why they did it, but I want you to know, take those characters, both of them, the brothers. Now, number one, it doesn't matter, and regardless, there are a lot of stories out there. Did they do it? Were they set up? Were they? I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. Does it really matter? No, it does not matter. The crime was committed. There is enough evidence, it could be circumstantial evidence, Of course, we don't know until one of them, we don't know what he has to say because he's dead. Now, the surviving one, he's going to have his day in court, and I guarantee you, we will find out. But supposedly, the story goes that they purchased these pressure cookers and purchased some fireworks, and that's how they made bombs. Okay, fine. I'm willing to believe that. Now, how did they do it? Where did they train? Did they try one and see if it works or not? How confident were they that this thing wasn't going to blow up while they are carrying it? So there are so many questions, but that's not what's important. What's important is what the media is concentrating on now. They're concentrating on, and if you hear CNN, Fox, all the vultures out there, they are coming out and they want to dig in Muslims' bodies. They want to kill Muslims. You know, many incidents took place in the United States where people got beaten up just for looking like a Muslim. You know, some Sikh or Indians or, who are not even Muslims, they got beaten up. For what? So and let's assume we are going to, even though they have not been found guilty in a court of law. And if you believe in the country of laws that we believe in, then we should all feel that way. Because you never know what the truth is. And we don't know what the truth is. There are many questions, and I'm not even going to get into all these questions because I don't want you to think that I am trying to influence your thinking and telling you, oh, no, those two brothers did not do it. I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to assume that they actually did it. Okay, so let's put that to rest. So we are talking on the basis that they did it. Period. Assuming, okay? Why did they do it? The only story that's circulating out there that the older brother went to Dagestan, and we know, well, that's what they tell us, that he became more Muslim. He wanted to be closer to his religion, and that's how he got radicalized. Let's take that. Let's take that he became more Muslim. What do you know about Muslims and war? What do you know about Muslim and killings? What does Islam say? If you get closer to Islam, then Islam tells you when to kill and who to kill. We're going to show you a little screen and we'll go over it. The rules of war. This is what Muhammad, peace be upon him, the prophet of the Almighty God, this is what he told his soldiers going into battle. He told them, don't ever kill women. In battle, we're not talking about, not in battle, we're not talking about in a city. We're not talking about if you go on a crowded street. This is when they were going to war. Saying, even in war, do not kill women. Don't kill children and old people. Don't burn houses of worship of other religions. Don't cut or destroy and burn trees. Don't tear down any buildings. Don't persecute animals. Don't kill animals. Don't burn a nest of bees and scatter them. Don't be treacherous, and don't be a coward. Now come back to me. Okay. What I want to concentrate on two things. Number one, that was rules of engagement in a war. In a war. Now, the street of Boston, that was not a battlefield. An 8-year-old died in that bombing. So if we assume that those two are the bombers, they were not following Islamic teachings. On the contrary, they were sinning against Islam. You cannot kill innocent people. Even soldiers in battle, on the battlefield, if you are fighting them, if they drop their weapons, you cannot kill them. That's it. If they drop their weapons, that's it. You stop. What about people on the streets of Boston? Children, little children, women, old people going out there to enjoy the marathon. Has anyone of these like stations like Sean Hannity or O'Reilly or anyone talked about that? Well, wait a minute. If this guy became more Muslim, which means he knows about Islam, and you want to know something? Everybody, this, what I just read to you, that's elementary in the Muslim religion. That's not like you really have to be so into the religion to learn that. That's elementary. That's elementary. Every Muslim knows that killing an innocent soul, and that's what God Almighty said in the Quran. Killing an innocent soul, it's like killing the whole of humanity. All those were innocent, the 3 that died. All of them, they were innocent. They were not soldiers on a battlefield. So if these 2 brothers, because they became more Muslims, which I doubt it. I doubt it. And then they're Chechens. Well, you never heard of that. I've been knowing Chechnya and Chechens for a long, long time, because actually we have in the Middle East, we have Chechen refugees who came to many countries in the Middle East in the early part of the 20th century as refugees because they were religiously persecuted by the communists. Because remember, Chechnya became part of the Soviet Union. Dagestan, majority Muslims, it became part of the Soviet Union. Now, Chechnya, at the breakup of the Soviet Union, it wanted to secede from just like other states. Like Ukraine, Georgia, Lithuania, whatever. All of these old Soviet Union republics, they were able to break away. Well, Chechnya was one of those republics that actually wanted to break away. And it has been having a war with the Russians since the breakup of the Soviet republics, of the Soviet Union. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because the United States happened to be on the side of the Muslims in that battle with the Russians. Big powers. Now, the United States, through the CIA, helping the Chechen rebels actually against the Russians, and they've been helping them for a long, long time. So there is a good relationship. Now, why is the United States doing that? Well, it's just, that's what superpowers do. They kind of like to mess with each other so they can have, I guess, spots of influence that they can use. So they can use the Chechen card with the Russians. And the Russians can use the Syrian cards with the Americans. And the Russians use the Libyans, the Iranians. So these superpowers, they do have, and they do that. Because that's how you compete with the other guy. So the CIA actually is on the side of the Chechens. So the last thing a Chechen wants to do is to jeopardize the relationship that his people and his cause is having with the people who support him or the government that supports him. Because you really, as people, you had no clue that there was even Chechnya out there, or what the heck is a Chechen is. Now, we are told that back in 2011, the Russians told the FBI, look, you got to be careful, this guy's this and this guy's that. And there are also reports in 2012 that actually the Saudi Arabians did the same thing and said, look, you got a loose cannon there. In 2012, we know that he went to Dagestan, and if you listen to the news media, I was listening to CNN, and they had Giuliani on there. To me, he's a bigot. These are the vultures that they come out, basically scavenger hunters. And every other word coming out of their mouths, or his mouth and everybody else on TV, is Muslims. Oh yeah, they hate us. They hate us. They want to kill us. Now we know in 2012 when the older brother, Tamerlane, when he went to Dagestan, and then they were saying, well, he went to Dagestan. Well, he went to Dagestan because his parents lived there. His parents fled the Chechnya because it's war-torn, and they went next door into Dagestan, and that's where they have been living. So now, and we also know that in 2012 he actually went and participated in a CIA-sponsored conference in Dagestan. Yes, Tamerlane, the older brother who died, was actually a participant in a CIA-sponsored conference in Dagestan. Now that's a fact. That's a fact. It's not like this is conspiracy or anything. No, that's a fact. So why would this Chechen, who wanted to be a boxer, who wanted to be part of the United States Olympic team, and who has a 3-year-old daughter, we know he's not the Muslim that everybody is trying to make him to be. And if he was, he would not have done what he did, because he would know better, because killing children is prohibited in Islam. Killing innocent people is prohibited in Islam. Destroying buildings is prohibited in Islam. But yet he did all that, supposedly. Now, we don't know if he did it or not. We don't know. We don't have the whole story. But like I said, we are going with the basis that, yes, him and his brother, they did it. Well, if they did it, they did not do it because they're Muslims. If they did it because they were crazy. Or they had a different motive that we don't know. Now, did the FBI actually, did they have, you remember the FBI, and we talked about this, and every time the FBI catches a terrorist wanting to do bombings, we've talked about this, about all of them on this program, and in every one we told you that the FBI that was the one that actually created those episodes. Remember the pilotless planes that were supposed to be flown into the Pentagon? Remember the Times Square bomber? Remember all of them. It turned out that the FBI was actually who created that plot. They found some guy who thinks maybe he doesn't like the United States or what the United States is doing overseas. And you can find a lot of people like that. Now, that's how they think. Now, if we live in the United States, we should respect each other's opinions. And there are many people who are not Muslims who disagreed with the war on Iraq, with the war in Afghanistan, with the endless wars that the United States government is undertaking in many parts of the world. Now, that's what a free country is supposed to be. People debating ideas freely. So what the FBI did actually is they found those people who think the United States is a bad guy for doing what it's doing around the world. And they nurtured these thoughts. They got other people to get involved that these people can be comfortable with, and they started the plot. And, we don't know how many did the FBI actually try with to do about 20 of them in the last 10 years. Maybe they tried about a couple of hundred people and they got 20 to actually go along with it. Now, did Tamerlan was one of those people? The FBI have used also the citizenship deal. Many people, when they come here, they become citizens. Some of them, they run into hurdles to become a citizen. And becoming a citizen is a big thing. Now, this guy actually wanted to be a citizen of the United States. He wanted it so bad. But the Immigration and Naturalization Office said no. Why? Because he had beaten up his ex-girlfriend, and that's on his records, that he had beaten up, domestic abuse, and we're not going to give it to you. Even though he's married to an American citizen and he has a child and he's been living here for 10 years, they're giving him a hard time. Now, sometimes they're going to give you even more of a hard time, and then the FBI comes in and says, hey, look, we can help you with that. But you got to give us something. You got to work with us. Was there a deal between the FBI? Because the FBI have been warned by the Russians. They have been warned by the Saudis. They have talked to him as late as 2012. And we don't know if when he came back he was debriefed at the airport or not. We don't know. We don't know if there was a case officer actually assigned to Tamerlan to follow up with him. We don't know if there was actually a real FBI plot that went bad. We don't know. We don't know. Did the FBI, did they know? Did the FBI tell them through third parties? We don't know. Because sometimes the FBI would create its own terrorists so they can catch them. And I'm not saying that just because we're going to show you a little clip that's going to actually, and I'm sure you will believe the people on these clips that the FBI, yeah, it was involved in in some of these things. Let's go ahead and play the. I think it's the longest clip that we have there with the FBI, and could they have been involved in that? We don't know, but we know one thing: they were involved in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. It was supposed to be fake bombs, but then something happened. We're not going to go through the details of 1993. It's all over the internet. It's facts now. You can go and read it and see what role did the FBI play in the 1993 Twin Tower bombings. Now, we're not telling you anything. I'm not telling you that's what happened. I'm not telling you that the FBI was actually involved in the Boston. I'm not telling you that. We will hear Judge, I think Napolitano on the Fox network. We always cover that, but I was actually surprised, and it's been a while since he did this, but mainstream media actually they're talking about it now. So let's go ahead and play that video. Pay attention.
We're learning more tonight about the Boston Marathon bombing, and yet there are still so many questions that have not been answered. The biggest one, of course, is who's behind it. Ben is looking back at some recent history in order to look forward in a reality check you won't see anywhere else.
In what has become the first terror bombing or explosion in the U.S. since 9/11, the biggest question tonight is who is responsible. Tonight we know more about what happened. The explosives used in this deadly Boston Marathon bombing were contained in 1.6-gallon pressure cookers hidden in black duffel bags on the ground. A person briefed on the investigation told that to the Associated Press. Now, one of the explosives contained shards of metal and ball bearings. Another contained nails. Those two bombs blew up about 10 seconds apart Monday, tearing off victims' limbs and leaving the streets spattered with blood and strewn with broken glass. 3 people were killed, including an 8-year-old boy. More than 170 people were wounded. So the big question that has not been answered yet is who is behind these attacks. So far, the FBI has questioned a Saudi national and has searched his apartment but found no signs of evidence against him. No groups have come forward claiming responsibility. And tonight, intelligence officials say they do not believe this was an al-Qaeda plot. So who was behind it? Well, no one knows at this point, or at least no one is saying. The last time the U.S. saw a bombing attempt like this was 1993. It was during the World Trade Center bombing. That explosion left 6 people dead, more than 1,000 injured. Damages in excess of $500 million. But there is a part of the World Trade Center bombings that is severely underreported. That it was the FBI presiding over the terrorists who carried out the 1993 bombing. In fact, virtually no one would know that fact today had it not been for this man, Ahmad A. Salim, a 43-year-old former Egyptian army officer. He was used by our government to penetrate a circle of Muslim extremists. According to extensive reporting by the New York Times, Mr. Salim secretly recorded hundreds of hours of conversations with the feds. Again, according to the Times, law enforcement officials were told the terrorists were building a bomb that was eventually used to blow up the World Trade Center. They planned to thwart the plotters by secretly substituting harmless powder for the explosives. The informer was to have helped the plotters build the bomb and supply the fake powder, but the plan was called off by an FBI supervisor. The account portrays the authorities as in a far better position than previously known to foil the February 26 bombing of New York City's tallest towers. Well, what this means for you, again tonight we know very little about what happened, but we do know this. The University of Mobile's cross-country coach told a local TV affiliate that he was near the finish line of the Boston Marathon when the explosions went off. He said he thought it was odd that there were bomb-sniffing dogs at both the start and the finish lines. He also said that law enforcement spotters were on the roofs at the start and end of the race. So the question tonight must be asked. Did the FBI have any knowledge of this plot before it happened? We do know for a fact that dozens of times since 9/11, the FBI has recruited, trained, and then taken down suspected terrorists before they could carry out their plots. That's not conspiracy, that's a fact. Is the practice of the FBI creating terror plots only to break them up before they can actually happen really making us safer? Is that what happened here? And that is Reality Check.
Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? Can the federal government take credit for saving us from a plot of its own creation? Tonight, has the federal government kept us safe or does it just want us to think that it has kept us safe? Since the tragedy of 9/11, numerous crazies and low-level copycats have engaged in criminal behavior which they hoped would result in the deaths of innocent Americans and somehow advance their cause of jihad. If you ask the leadership of the FBI, most of whose field agents are tireless, dedicated, Constitution-supporting professionals, it will tell you that the FBI, has foiled about 17 plots to kill Americans during the past 10 years. What it will not tell you is that there have been 20 foiled plots, and of them, 3 were interrupted by members of the public. The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds. We all remember the 3 that were foiled by diligent Americans: the shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, and the Times Square bomber. In all of these cases, the crimes charged were those of attempting to kill and conspiring with others to do so. In all 3 of those cases, alert Americans on transcontinental flights or in the streets of New York City told authorities of bizarre behavior or actually subdued the threats themselves. There was no foiling by the FBI. The plotters were, thankfully, bumbling fools who had poorly planned their criminal behavior and who ended up harming no one. All 3 are serving life terms. But the more curious cases are the remaining 17 for which the federal government has taken credit. They all have a common and reprehensible thread. They were planned, plotted, controlled, and carried out by the federal government itself. In all of these 17 cases, from the Fort Dix 6 to the Lackawanna 7 to the Portland parade bomber, the feds found young men of Muslim backgrounds, loners who were bitter at America. They befriended them, cajoled them, and persuaded them that they could change the world by killing Americans. In all these cases, agents worked undercover and portrayed themselves to the targets as Arabs of like un-American mind. In some cases, the federal agents used third parties to act as middlemen. The third parties were typically persons who had been convicted of crimes and who, in return for leniency at their own sentencings, were willing to work with the same feds who prosecuted them in order to help the feds entrap whomever else those feds were pursuing. Thus, in all 17 of these cases, because of the command and control of federal agents, no one was ever in danger, no one was harmed, no bomb went off, and no property was damaged. But in all those cases, the losers whom the feds targeted each believed that they were interacting with real plotters who would bring them cash and bombs. As we know, sometimes the cash arrived, but the bombs never did. The defendants were essentially charged and convicted for playing a game with federal agents. The most recent of those government-generated plots was revealed yesterday. It has a new twist because it allegedly involves agents of the intelligence apparatus of the government of Iran. It too was destined to go nowhere, as the feds monitored and taped every move made by their target as he interacted with federal agents whom he stupidly believed to be drug dealers and co-conspirators. Today, the feds themselves revealed that high officials of Iran's government knew nothing of this. Of course, the neocons have demanded bombs on Tehran, no matter what the government there knew. And this plot came to light the day before Attorney General Holder himself was subpoenaed by Congress in the Fast and Furious case. You get the picture. Are any of these plots criminal? Can the government just pick and choose whom to seduce and then lower the boom at the right time and arrest its would-be Confederates? Is this a proper and efficient use of law enforcement resources? The answers to these questions are obvious, and they are not good. The courts have made this legal, so long as the target of these plots had a mental predisposition to cause harm. But none of this keeps us safe. All of this makes us less free, as any one of us can be entrapped. And we are fools if we praise the government for exposing a plot of its own creation and saving us from a danger that never existed. Can the government break the law in order to enforce it? Well, when it does, it becomes a law unto itself, and the rule of law dies as the feds decide whom to target and whom to trap. Think about it. Are we really safe in a false sense of security? Why do we pay the government to trick us into believing it is keeping us safe? When no one is harmed and the government controls the plot, aren't we just punishing someone for his thoughts? And in a free society, aren't free people free to think as they wish? This must be so. Because if the government can punish our thoughts, there are no limits to its power. From New York, defending...
Okay. I think you get the idea. Now, we're not assuming or presuming that that's what took place, but the older brother, was he a candidate for something like this? I personally believe that yes, he was. Number one, he needed his citizenship that he was having a hard time getting. It's kind of hard to believe that someone wants a citizenship for a country that he hates so much and that he wants to kill. Did you see how relaxed he was on the day of the bombing? Him and his brother? Did you see how relaxed? I mean, they carried these bombs. I'm assuming that they knew that it was bombs. Or did they? Did the FBI have another mission that I don't know. I don't want to assume, so you won't think that I am actually giving these guys a way out. I'm not. If they did it, they are criminals. And if they did it, well, one of them is dead, the other one deserves to die. deserves to die for the crime that he committed if he is found guilty in a court of law without any reasonable doubt. If he was not a soldier influenced by a group, if he was not lured into this plot, because remember, the rebel groups in Chechnya and Dagestan, they said that this guy does not work for us. And if these rebel groups, they compete with each other on like what kind of military and commando operations they're able to do that with. And if any of them actually had any association with this guy, they would have been bragging about it. But nobody did. They said, we got nothing to do with him. And taking into the fact that he had attended a CIA conference, we know that the FBI is in contact with him, then the question is, why? Why? His brother, how religious his younger brother is? Well, he's not, I mean, they said that he infrequently went to Friday prayers, infrequently, which means he did not go. Now, he liked to party, and if some of these stories are actually true, he liked to, he was making money selling marijuana. If the stories about Tamerlan and the death of his friend 6 months before, and the body of his friends and a couple of others that died was basically shot at close range and with marijuana covering their bodies, and if Tamerlan was the accuser, then we know he was into drugs. But that's all. We're not saying that. Okay, we're not accusing him of that. But we know for a fact that if they were close to Islam, they will not be doing this, or they would not have done what they had done. So why did they do it? We're going to listen to our Vice President Biden, who was at, that poor, and I feel so sorry for the loss of life of the police officer or on the MIT campus. I mean, you never know when your life is going to end. And we sometimes take things for granted. The guy was out there doing his job, doing what he was supposed to do, and he died in cold blood. Well, during his funeral last week, Vice President Biden was there, and he told us why these people did what they did. Let's hear Vice President Biden.
I get asked, like my colleagues, almost every day since 9/11, why? Why? Why this terrorist phenomenon of the the beginning of the 21st century? Why? People say to me, for they surely know they can never defeat us. They can never overthrow us. They can never occupy us. So why? Why? Whether it's Al-Qaeda's central out of the Fatah or two twisted, perverted, cowardly knockoff jihadis here in Boston. Why do they do what they do? I've thought about it a lot because I deal with it a lot. And I've come to the conclusion, which is not unique to me, but they do it to instill fear, to have us, in the name of our safety and security, jettison what we value most and the world most values about us. Our open society, our system of justice that guarantees freedom, the access of all Americans to opportunity, the free flow of information and people across this country, our transparency.
So why did they do it? Biden just told us. You know, we thought George Bush, when he told us that they hate us because of our freedom, that was so stupid. Now he topped it off. Knockoff jihadis? What the hell is that? Knockoff jihadis? You know, China makes knockoff stuff that they duplicate. So this knockoff jihadi was actually raised in the United States. Jihadi. So he used that. And are we surprised why people think the way they think? Are we surprised? You know, you take these government officials and you take the media, assuming that these Muslims, and put it in your head, knockoff jihadis. He did it because he's a Muslim. Why they hate us? He said he's been thinking about it for a long, long time, since 9/11. Why is this terrorist phenomena? Really? You're the Vice President of the United States and you don't know why terrorists exist in the world? Try, we made them. Try, we created them. Try, we supported them. We paid for them. We financed them. We trained them, and we still do. Try that. That didn't come across your desk, Mr. Vice President? That did not come across your desk that we created these terrorists out there? We used them. We recycled them. We created Al-Qaeda. We financed Al-Qaeda. We used Al-Qaeda. That's why. We bombed the hell out of these countries out there. And we don't know why. Because we are a free society. They hate us because we are transparent. Transparent? Why don't you be transparent and tell the American people what's going on? Why don't you be transparent and tell them what relationship does the CIA have with all of these groups? You wondering, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, and it's taken you since 9/11 about this terrorism phenomena? We created it. We, the United States of America, created it. They don't hate us. We created that hate. That doesn't even exist. See, the thing is, you go into any Muslim country, you go ask people on the streets, what do you think of America? They love America. Everybody wants to come here. If they hate it so much, why are they fighting in the lines to the embassies of the United States, wanting to come over? In Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in the Arab countries. They hate us? No. There's nothing about hate. It's all about politics. It's all about imperialist ambitions of what we want to control in the world. We cycled the same terrorists in Afghanistan to fight them and kill them so we can tell the American people that we are fighting Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Then the same people who were fighting in Afghanistan when Libya came around, now we brought them out, financed them, supported them, and they went to fight Gaddafi that we fought, the United States. Then the same people, those who left of them, because many of them died, we sent them to Syria. Thousands of them, armed them, and sent them into Syria, that now, after we used them, after they did what they did, we, the United States of America, supported them. Now, at first we called them the opposition, the rebel, the Syrian rebel, the Free Syrian Army. Now we're calling them terrorists in Syria, and we don't want these shady terrorists to get hold of the chemical weapons. So now they're bad. But when we sent them in, they were good. That's the same people that we call terrorists. My final message to you is, don't be fooled with what you hear from the government. Don't be fooled and influenced with what you hear on these talking heads on TV, especially if they are spewing hate against Muslims. Because Muslims are not your enemy. Muslims are your neighbors. And I'm sure many of you watching me tonight, you know someone who is a Muslim, and you know they're not bad people. Muslims are Americans. Muslims are Americans who died for America. Muslims are Americans. Muslims are scientists. They're doctors. They're engineers. They build America. Okay, they help. You know, go see NASA. Go see how many Muslim scientists we have to achieve the scientific advances that we have. But you hear the news, every Muslim wants to kill an American. And that is not true. That is not true. Every Muslim fights these terrorists. And if these two brothers, I guarantee you, I have not heard not even one from one single, not even online, not even among the community here or anywhere, that anyone is supporting those two in Boston. If it turned out to be that yes, they did it, but I guarantee you they did not do it because of their Islamic teachings. When you hear something like that, you owe it to yourself to go and research it. What is in Islam that could have made or convinced these two brothers to go and do what they did? You will find that is actually the opposite. You do not kill children, even at war. Not in a marathon, not when you have civilians. Do not kill women. These are the rules of war. These are the Islamic rules of war. You only to go to war to defend yourself. Now, I don't think these two were defending themselves or were defending anything. And like I told you, don't forget, where they came from, Chechnya. Chechnya is trying to liberate itself from Russia. Who's helping them? The United States through the CIA and through other countries, because they want to influence Russia. They want to have a card in their hand. And like I said, all countries do that. So these people had no reason, none whatsoever, to revenge from the United States. The United States is a friend of Chechnya. So things, it's not adding up. The only thing that, let's leave politics to the politicians. Let's leave criminals to the courts and to the laws, and concentrate on our humanity. Not to be influenced by what you hear in the media, because the media is driving an agenda. There's an agenda. Zionism would love to see Muslims and Christians at each other's throats. That's how it thrives. That's what they are planning. And the media is pushing that message. Who loses? Everybody at the end, if we listen to them. Anyway, that's very much what we had for you tonight. And hopefully, if we decided not to agree or decided to disagree, at least we are deciding that as free society. So it's okay to disagree with each other. All right, well, you better come here if you want to say good night, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. Tell them good night.
Good night.